Hold on, what if I just prop it up? Prop it up on this post.
All right, so can everybody hear me? We need to turn on one more.
Sorry.
We're good? Everybody good? Good. All right, we're going to open up this meeting, the public comment meeting for the data center ordinance. Again, at this time, we will be taking public comments only. We ask you refrain from your, stories of you lived here, you moved here, why you moved here, all those kind of things. And just basically give us your comments on what you feel the ordinance needs, doesn't need, and those things of that nature. So we ask you to be professional, courteous as always, And I think the easiest way to do this tonight would be to go back one row, back the other row. There's a microphone at the front where you come up and make your comments. Again, please state your name and your address.
No further comments. So again, I would emphasize the purpose of this is to receive public comment on the ordinance that has been on the website and has been advertised.
Okay, and we are in receipt of the Perry County Planning Commission comments also, and we have all had a chance to review those. So they are here with us tonight also. We're calling at the first table, second table, anybody for a comment?
Hi, good evening. Matt Clammer, 3478 Susquehanna Trail.
Got the lid there. Okay, let's keep it quiet and professional. He has the floor.
Pass it around. A thoughtful and environmentally conscious data center project can be achieved in blocks through the implementation of reasonable industry standard requirements which are not currently represented in the proposed zoning amendment. Common sense regulations can protect both the community and the environment from potentially negative impacts while enabling this opportunity to provide significant investment of Watts, accompanied by overwhelming economic benefits. A project in Watts Township would create thousands of construction jobs and more than 350 permanent positions to provide sustainable careers for Perry County residents. The project will instantly become Perry County's largest private sector employer, and the tax money and private investment derived from it will fund incredible community benefits for the region. The project has the potential to cover 150% of the township budget each year, allowing opportunities to improve township services, reduce taxes on homeowners, offset burdensome DEP septic maintenance regulations, or provide opportunities to preserve farmland. It would more than double the budget for the fire department, ensuring its long-term solvency. Watts faces significant tax increases or doubling of homeowners' insurance rates should New Buffalo Fire Department close, not to mention increased response times and the inherent risk that poses to public health and welfare. The project would cover nearly half of the Susquehanna School District budget, providing more tax revenue annually than all other real estate taxes collected by the district. This opportunity would improve educational outcomes for the children of Watts and other townships in perpetuity through enhancements in academics, athletics, and the arts. Implementing overly restrictive covenants such as are proposed means making a conscious decision to deny the children of Watts this educational opportunity. We know that by adopting more reasonable regulations that are currently proposed in this ordinance, along with conscientious planning and engineering, we can deliver fewer negative impacts and significantly more benefits than an alternative industrial project. Thank you.
Moving on, anybody else at the second table? Third table. Come on up if you have a comment. Again, this is open to anybody.
Good evening, my name is Dr. Daniel Welliver. Unlike Matt Clymer, I'll give you my actual address. I'm a resident of Wheatfield Township, and my home at 336 Towpath Road down Canyon is less than 50 yards from Watts Township, along the Juniata River, and about 1.5 miles as the crow flies from the industrial district in Watts Township, where MRP Industrial would like to build large-scale data centers and warehouses. I want to give a little bit of history. I know this is to focus specifically on the ordinance. I think this history is critical because the main point I want to make about the ordinance is, as it stands, it's inadequate. This history is important to that. I've been deeply involved with a group of area residents actively resisting MRP's large-scale development plans in Watts Township since September of 2023, when a small group of residents mailed a flyer to everyone in Watts Township to alert them to MRP Industrial's intentions at that time to build 2 warehouses in the township, each one being approximately 1 million square feet. As many of you know, Matt Clymer of MRP Industrial and his hired lawyers from McNeese, Wallace, and Newark have recently submitted their plans to build 2 huge warehouses, while also submitting plans to build 10 data center buildings on the land that they and their investors now own in Watts Township. They also convinced the township zoning officer, Jerry Speece, to sign a letter in 2024 in which Mr. Speece agreed with their assertion that a data center is the same thing as a warehouse. No one knew of the existence of this letter until March of this year, when it was submitted with MRP's plans for building data centers, in essence indicating that they should be able to build their proposed 10 data center buildings under the township's rules for warehouse development. Now, the reason this history is important. This is important history because it demonstrates the bad faith with which MRP continues to operate, and just how important it is for township supervisors to adopt the strongest possible legal protections in their ordinances, to do everything legally in their power to reject MRP's bad faith practices, and to reject any development plans MRP submits. If you were requesting bids from a contractor locally to do maintenance on your roads, and a bid came in and you opened it up, and it was from a contractor that had shown bad faith, had been deceitful in previous work, you would have a right to reject the bid. I'm asking you to reject MRP's bid to build these huge developments in this township. Speaking specifically now to the data center ordinance, that's the subject of this public hearing. It is the primary duty of township supervisors to protect the health and safety of residents and the social and natural environment of this township. While supervisors in recent months have made changes to their draft data center ordinance that do strengthen protections for township residents, there is much more that can be done. Area residents have been working for months to find the most protective provisions that can be legally included in the data center ordinance. Some of these provisions for example, come from guidance that the two wealthiest counties in Pennsylvania, Montgomery and Chester counties, give to their townships. MRP's Matt Clymer himself lives in one of those wealthy counties, Chester County. I wish he would agree to protections for Watts Township that would match the protections recommended for his own home township. After hours and hours of research, residents have created what we believe to be the most protective ordinance language that the law allows, and I'm submitting that with my comments tonight to be part of the public record for this hearing. Supervisors have indicated that if an ordinance is adopted this evening, they will immediately begin working on adopting a package of amendments to strengthen the ordinance even more. That's why many of us here are supportive of you passing this ordinance tonight and enacting it, because of your pledge to make it even stronger in the coming weeks. I want to challenge supervisors to have the residents' ideal model ordinance reviewed by the township solicitor, the township's engineering firm, and the Perry County Planning Commission, and consider adopting it, or at least incorporating many of its provisions in the package of amendments that supervisors put together over the coming weeks. Many of you probably remember comparisons that were made at one point between the early versions of the Watts Township Draft Center Ordinance and the ordinance that was recently adopted by Carroll Township, Perry County. Carroll Township is now preparing to amend their new ordinance with a package of provisions that will strengthen it even more. Some of the amendments they are considering were mentioned in an article in last week's issue of the Duncannon Record. And the full package of proposed amendments is available on the Carroll Township website. I'm going to submit a copy of their planned amendments tonight for the formal record of this public hearing. Here's just a couple of highlights in the interest of time. Number one, the bond that is required of applicants to address any possible water depletion or contamination. Currently, in your draft ordinance, it's a $2.5 million bond. The proposed amendment to the Carroll Township ordinance reads, it shall not be less than $5 million. With regard to pre-approving site disturbance, Watts has no current provision. Carroll Township reads, before any tree removal, clearing, grading, earth disturbance, or building construction, the applicant must submit executed purchase orders, binding procurement contracts acceptable to the township, showing that critical long lead equipment necessary for the proposed use has been committed for procurement. This is a safety for the township, so that a building doesn't start to be built before they have determined that they are able to have the required equipment for the use, which is a challenge these days with supply chains. The maximum building size, we have a height restriction in the proposed ordinance, but there's no square foot limit. In Carroll Township, they've set a 25,000 square foot limit to the size of their buildings. And the last one I'll point out is what Carroll Township calls public outreach. There are no such provisions in the current draft for Watts Township. But for Carroll Township, prior to any submission of an application, the applicant must notify by mail all residents within 1 mile of the potential site of the intention to build a data center and provide the township with the mailing list and a copy of that communication. The applicant must also conduct 2 public meetings with residents. This is prior to their application. They must do 2 public meetings with residents to describe the project and propose mitigation of aspects of the design that are of concern to the residents. As part of these outreach provisions, the applicant must also erect a high visibility sign 15 days prior to each public meeting at a location determined by the township. They have to do all of this before they can even submit an application, making sure that everyone within a 1 mile radius and beyond is aware of their plans. The penalty for violations in the Watts Township draft ordinance is $500 a day. And there's been discussion, and you've heard other comments in previous meetings about that being very inadequate in this case. Carroll Township, $10,000 a day. Much more meaningful for a large-scale development of this I'll note that in June 24th, 2026, just yesterday, I had a phone conversation with a Carroll Township official. I was told that the solicitor for Carroll Township has not advised against this $10,000 penalty provision. However, the Perry County Planning Commission, in its review comments sent to the township, indicated that the $10,000 penalty may not be in alignment with legal constraints in the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code. It should also be noted that the solicitor who has not yet objected to the $10,000 fine provision is Linus Fennicle, who is also the solicitor for Watts Township. I would like to remind supervisors that the data center ordinance adopted by Carroll Township limits the height of a data center building to 30 feet. Evidently, our shared solicitor has no legal objection to limiting the height of data centers to 30 feet. Watts Township should follow Carroll Township's lead. A smaller building is in keeping with the scale of buildings in the rural setting of Watts Township. Smaller data center buildings also mean less water use, less wastewater from purging closed-loop systems, less noise, less electricity use, less heat, and reduced visual impact. All of these are issues of concern that residents have expressed to you over and over again. These issues can all be reduced and mitigated by limiting the size and scale of data centers, which you have every right to do. The people attending this meeting tonight and all area residents deserve swift movement to amending and strengthening the provisions of the Township's data center ordinance, assuming that such an ordinance is adopted this evening. I hope that supervisors have been individually studying all the input that they've been receiving and suggestions over the past 2 months, and that they have already begun preparing their own individual ideas for the amendments that they may plan to make. People here tonight, I ask you to talk to supervisors, request that they devote at least 1 hour of their upcoming regular July 1st meeting to discussing additional amendments to any ordinance that would be passed tonight. You should also ask them to set a date in mid-July for a special work session, work session to finalize amendments, and to set a public hearing and special meeting date to consider and adopt those amendments. There is no time to waste. MRP is up to its tricks. We should also request, this is my last point, that when a public hearing is scheduled for additional amendments to the data center ordinance, that public meeting should also include notification that the supervisors intend to rescind Ordinance 2201 adopted on April 6, 2022, that raised the building height limit in the industrial district. By rescinding that ordinance, supervisors can return the maximum height of any building in the industrial zone from 60 feet back to 35 feet. Thank you for the opportunity to provide my comments, and I'll bring some folders up with my comments, with the Carroll Township amendments, and with the ideal ordinance that residents have been working so hard on for months. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, next table back, comments? Yep. This is regarding the ordinance, correct?
Good evening, supervisors. I am Roxanne Herbster, 336 Towpath Road, Duncannon, PA, 1.5 miles from the proposed industrial site. I want to acknowledge that there is no money in the world that can buy what Watts Township has. It is peanuts what they're offering compared to what people have when they live here. I want to make that point. I also am a member of Local 19, Sheet Metal Workers. My job depends on big construction projects. I do not believe that my local would want to come in and destroy a rural area like this. I don't support it. And I hope that my fellow union members will protect Watts Township's way of life. Also want to point out lastly that your attorney is the same for Carroll Township, and that he has approved all those amendments ordinances for Carroll Township. So there is, I see no reason why we can't have those same amendments. Same solicitor reviewed both of them. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Next table. Next table back, anybody? Stand up, nobody on the last table? Standing in the back or on the side, anybody for comments? Moving back over to this side, yes sir, in the red chair.
Hi, Joe Fritz, 51 Liverpool Road. Just for perspective, the Commonwealth's data center that services all the Commonwealth needs, 20,000 square feet with 5,000 for auxiliary equipment. I've ran it for 10 years, that's what it said. So that, with all that service, what they're building is a monster compared to that.
People across the back, people standing, people on the side. 1 second, I can get up front yet. Go ahead, Steve.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Stephen Conklin. As you all know, I'm a resident that actually lives in Watts Township. In my view, the projects and plans being proposed by MRP Industrial and their representatives appear to reflect a pattern of misrepresentation, manipulation of process, bad faith, and a complete disregard for the rights and expectations of the people who live here and represent us. The proposed industrial development was initially pitched to Watts Township as a warehouse project. That threat posed serious concerns for our peaceful rural community. A warehouse or distribution center of the scale proposed would create an irreversible impact and a direct hit to the quiet enjoyment, safety, and rural character that residents reasonably relied upon when they chose to make their homes here. A warehouse or distribution center of the scale proposed would create an irreversible impact and a direct, That warehouse narrative appears to have been used as a means to try and secure zoning advantages, including height increases and favorable interpretations, while the property was actually being actively positioned for a hyperscale data center complex. And while a data center may not generate the same constant freight traffic as a distribution center or warehouse, its footprint is no less destructive. Whether we are talking about a warehouse, a distribution center, or a data center, the rural setting is completely sacrificed and forever altered. And it's not just any rural setting. We're sitting alongside the Susquehanna and Juniata Rivers, Haldeman Island within the federally protected Appalachian Trail Buffer Zone in a prime agricultural, conservational, and rural ground, and in one of the most historically and ecologically significant areas in the entire state of Pennsylvania. I find it completely ignorant, disrespectful, greedy, horrific, irresponsible, and negligent that anyone, whether a human being or an evil, soulless entity, could even consider such an atrocity, especially in an area like this. I feel many could reach similar conclusion that there appears to be both negligent and fraudulent misrepresentation, negligent infliction of emotional distress, private nuisance, civil conspiracy, and bad faith all occurring here. And although these could be considered serious claims, they mirror what many of us have watched unfold. When considering fraud, it appears that the project was repeatedly represented to officials and the public as a conventional warehouse, while key facts about data center intentions were concealed or distorted. Ordinance language and undefined terms such as warehouse were stretched to capture data centers, and a quiet zoning officer sign-off was used as an effort to lock in a favorable interpretation without transparent board approval or meaningful public notice. When considering nuisance, I feel it's safe to conclude that any project by MRP, if advanced, would unreasonably interfere with the use and enjoyment of nearby properties through industrial noise, lighting, traffic, and environmental impacts that are fundamentally inconsistent with Watts Township's rural character or comprehensive plans. In addition, even before any building goes up, the looming threat that has already damaged residents' peace of mind and sense of security in their homes that interference with the basic right to live without industrial intrusion at your doorstep is precisely what nuisance law exists to address. When considering conspiracy, it appears that multiple parties coordinated to mischaracterize the project, manipulate zoning interpretation and height allowances, and influence local institutions through conditional promises and orchestrated messaging. When you consider the sequence of the height amendment, the warehouse framing, the legal letter redefining data centers as warehouses or storage and distribution land uses, the later demand for 75-foot plus height standard, and the targeted outreach to volunteer fire companies and a financially strained school district, all tied to promises of transformative funding, if the developer's zoning demands were met, residents see that pattern and reasonably view it as a concerted effort to secure entitlements at their expense. This is not simply a disagreement over land use. It is a breakdown of trust in a situation where the people who stand to bear the impacts feel they were not dealt with honestly, not fully informed, and not given a fair process. When the pathway to approval is paved with half-truth, legal word games, back-channel communications, and dangling financial incentives in front of vulnerable public institutions, it is fair for residents to call that out and demand better. I'm asking this board to take all those allegations seriously, to recognize that they go to the heart of your duty to protect the public, and to insist on a standard of full transparency and genuine community consent before any project of this scale moves forward. Watts Township is not a line item on a balance sheet. It is our homes, our families, our roads, our air, and our future. I believe it's safe to say MRP appears to have been acting in bad faith the entire time. They've lost all credibility, and I feel they should be prohibited from doing anything here at all. I had a bunch prepared on zoning, but I think Mr. Welliver covered that very well. I assume he's giving you guys all the information, so I'm not going to touch on that, but I would like to, yes, everything that Linus has approved for Carroll Township, I expect nothing less than those protections here. Whatever they have for the low height, the low noise, we deserve nothing less. If there is going to be any kind of industrial development, I'd like an additional provision that no building can exceed a reasonable size, say like 20,000 square feet. Thank you.
All right, last table. Come on up.
My name's Ray Sigley. I live at 195 Lincoln Road. It's in Penn Township, just up over the river. My question is in relation to what the first gentleman said, the number of jobs and everything it creates. Are these jobs going to Perry Countyans? Are they going to Pennsylvanians? Are they even going to Americans? Is this going to be H-1B visa holders and green card holders? And when it comes to the money, are they cutting a check? First of the year, boom, here's all the money, or is that the pie in this time? And I just want to have you consider, if you're considering what the first guy said, I'd like you to consider the rest. Thank you.
Thank you. Next table up. Anybody for comment? Table here. Brian?
Ryan Rickson, 204 Notch Road. I heard Matt Clymer promise two things, jobs and money. Now, I looked through the meeting minutes, and as far as money is concerned, there were some estimates of how much money that the township and the fire department would get. The estimate was $56,000 a year for the fire department and about 30-some thousand for the township. I didn't see anything about the school. So that's how much money has been estimated from taxes. So that's numbers that we're talking about, not all these numbers that Matt seems to want everybody to imagine. As far as jobs are concerned, okay, I used to work in IT. All right, I worked for the state. I worked some other places. And as far as jobs for a data center are concerned, maybe there would be thousands while the buildings are built. Maybe, fine. Once the buildings are built, the jobs go away. IT systems can be administrated from anywhere in the world. Those data centers could be ran from India. The people that need to be on site would be to go ahead and change failed hard drives, failed power supplies, and other failed equipment. Handful of people, probably from some third-party contractor in Harrisburg or somewhere. That's what you would get. Okay? Period. So you want to employ more people in India, that's what you're looking at. Okay? Thank you.
Anybody else at the second table? All right.
Melissa Baker, I live in New Buffalo. Most of my life I lived in Rose Township. I just want to reiterate what the last gentleman said. It's absolutely true. I've been reading about these data centers. They do not create jobs. I almost choked when I heard 350. And as the last gentleman said, maybe in India, probably not even. But I would like to just reiterate everything Mr. Wilbur said. I would also like to ask Will. He is absolutely correct on all of it. They are acting in bad faith, as many AI data centers are doing. And AI data centers are nothing like regular data centers. Nobody's really brought that up, that this will be an AI data center. We're pretty sure. They use 3 to 5 times the power of a regular data center. The hypercenters use up to 100,000, the same electricity as 100,000 residences. And then the electric companies have to build new utilities, new infrastructure, and the data centers share the cost with us, and it's awfully nice of them when we didn't need that infrastructure before they came along. And I've also heard that, well, the water only gets ruined during construction. That's nice. I mean, because everybody around here has wells, right? So I guess we can just have our water ruined during construction? That'd be great. I've also read that when it comes to bad faith, that there's a lot of it. There's a whole lot of it. Like in Fayetteville, Georgia, where they hooked up 2 water hoses and only reported 1 of them. And nobody knew it till they sucked the wells dry and nobody had water pressure. They eventually paid for it and paid fines. I would also entreat you to not allow a data center, to not approve a data center, because they all operate in bad faith. They're all moving way too fast. They might make a lot of promises, but they're not being borne out anywhere else. So why would you expect them to be borne out here? And the noise pollution, all the electricity that goes in there is causing what they call infranoise, which is basically like thrumming. Everybody who's ever stood next to one of those, I don't know what they are, but they thrum and they vibrate. Think that like times 10 all the time, and everybody hears it. There's not really enough money in the world to make up for this. There's not enough money for any of it. And honestly, what are these data centers going towards? It takes the same electricity to run as would take to run a microwave for an hour to make a 5-second video, AI created video. And that's what they're using on YouTube. They have a YouTube channel that just has AI videos of AI created songs. 5 seconds, an hour's worth of microwave. It's a lot of power. I mean, yeah, AI can do a lot of good things, but it's not being used for that. It's just being used to put money in people's pockets, not our pockets. I would entreat you to consider everything that Mr. Wilbur said And I would think the majority of everyone here absolutely agrees with that. Thank you.
Last name will be heard in front. Ernie?
Evening. I'm glad to be here, but I'd much rather be sitting on my deck looking at the Juniata River and the blessed sunset. But here I am. So less than 300 yards away from where they're going to build this enormous, it's a mile long. If you look at it on the map, it's a mile long from one end to the other. They're 300 yards away from my house. And how dare you say the school district's going to get money because I'm going to have this monstrosity 300 yards from my house? How dare you? Where do you get that? Oh, we have a freeway. You know, we get some noise from that. It's very intermittent. The train, it's settling you. I've always lived near a train. I don't know who hasn't. So I got a couple things about the amendments. So this on-site power that they're talking about, that would be horrendous. Have power plants just running and polluting 300 yards from my house, and the gentleman just talked a minute ago, he's closer than I am. He's 250. I've been in the plumbing and heating business for 5 decades, and one of our plants that we serviced was DuPont Electronics down in Fishing Creek down 83. And I remember it like it was yesterday. We went around and we shut down every floor drain in the whole place. Every one was packed, full, clogged, and then we had a pump. Because the effluent was getting it, who knows what was, they were making connectors. My God. So I say that every one of the, and I've sent this in an email, only the lavatories in the toilets can go, there's only going to be 30 people at the most, that they can go to a holding tank and you can have a pump. You don't have to pump it into the river with it. You don't even have to build a sewage treatment plant with 30 people. But all the other drains should go to another holding tank where all that, whatever you spill, and if there's a fire, what do? It's all going to go down the floor drains. That goes to another tank, and then they can take it wherever to remediate it. So the sound levels, those low-level sound levels, they're going to go. My whole house is going to shake. There's no way that the whole house, and the people who live across the Juniata River, it's going to echo off the river. It's just going to go. They're going to get it. They're going to get it worse than I am. It's going over my head, but my house is still going to capture that sound. In 1 mile, a square mile of rooftop and blacktop. Where's that water going? So I started coming to these meetings, and I found out about this warehouse thing going on because my garage gets water because they developed across the street. They still haven't fixed that. Now, how are they going to they're going to have 1 square mile. And where's the water going to go? I have no idea. It's going to come down gushing, and they're going to need like 36, maybe they're going to need 6-foot culverts. And where's that going to go? Into the river? I know there's holding ponds in. They're going to have to be like, I don't know, I have no idea. That is just, it's amazing. It's amazing that it's even gotten to this point. I'm not sitting on my deck watching the freaking sunset. I just, and the biggest thing, another thing is my water's perfect. There's nothing wrong with it. How dare they come and take my water away? What am I supposed to drink? My water's perfect. I can drink it any time I want. I can take a shower. And then, now I have to monitor it because they're, the construction, and then, they're gonna spill, and how dare you want to take my water because you want to have a better school? I can't believe it. You can have to have this conversation.
All right, one last chance. Go ahead. And then you, sir, we'll get you afterwards.
I will be very short. I heard
Your name and address, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Renee Fry, Buffalo Creek Road, Ross Township. I heard you in the beginning about the finances, and while that sounds glorious, I think we need to look one generation down the line. Woo! I'm a registered nurse, and I have taken a class in Wisconsin University called Environmental Impacts on Nursing, and it's going to, the drumming noise, those birds, they're not going to be there. They're going to leave. They're going to move to a more quiet area. That would drive their little bird brains crazy. And if you think it won't have an impact on you or your children, you're wrong. And water is the essential of life. If there's no good water, it's going to affect every generation coming down the line. And the good school, which I don't quite believe yet, is not going to matter. I would ask you to maybe think a little bit longer and harder about the environmental impacts that this will have on our health. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Garrett Bellestad. I'm a resident of Township. I'm not up here to try to help you guys make any decisions for your township. However you want to live, I appreciate that. I have been involved with other data centers through my job with the ironworkers in Greenfield Township, Middlesex Township, and the proposed data centers is with Township. To what Mr. Clymer said earlier, as far as the jobs that it does create with construction, that is true. We have approximately 70 members working on each of those job sites right now that have started. What it also does is it creates the opportunity for us to get young people involved in a good skilled trade where they can make a good living. Especially with the guys that we had that come from this area, that on some jobs they have to drive to, such as Lancaster, York County, an hour and a half, 2 hours from their homes, where they have to leave work early and use pay to be able to watch your kids play baseball, to go watch your kids' football games.
All right, the gentleman has the floor.
Again, I'm just speaking from my perspective as a union iron worker, the things that I would have liked somebody to say for me when I was in the situation where I was missing those things with my family. I live in a township where they are proposing 2 data centers, and I support them 100%.
Could you spell your last name, please?
Yes, it's E-L-L-E-S-D-A-D.
Thank you.
Stand up.
So we'll move over here to Carl. Carl, any comments?
Wait a minute, one more.
All right, you will be the last one then.
Hi guys, my name is Cadence Lackshaw. I live at 31 Paradise Road, Duncannon. This is my first time coming to anything like this and speaking up. I'm only 21, just graduated college, so hang in with me there, I'm a little shaky. But yeah, I just graduated from Ursinus College with a degree in environmental studies and sustainability. I have a few minors. And I just started an internship as my last requirement for the degree. I just started an internship at the Perry County Conservation District. And today, I didn't get the chance to look at the ordinance, so I will preface with that, but I do have a few things that I took notes on and I'd like to share with you guys and you guys. So I was looking at the negative effects and feedback loops of data centers. And from the World Resources Institute, they had an article titled "From Energy Use to Air Quality, the Many Ways Data Centers Affect U.S. Communities." And the main top-of-mind impacts they quoted were higher power bills and rampant water use. And I would like to point out we are right by the confluence of the Juniata and the Susquehanna. And that's really big. The Susquehanna is one of like the widest rivers on the east, I think. Yeah, on the east. Yeah, and I would also like to point out that Harrisburg is downstream from us, right? Harrisburg, I did some citizen scientist like testing for the water quality, and they had a problem with E. coli. And so I'd like us to think that what happens in Watts doesn't just stay and affect Watts. It's gonna move, it's gonna radiate. And that's the biggest thing that I've learned all my 4 years. And it just, I think that makes sense. But anyways, so yeah, regarding infrastructure, it's nice that we pointed out about the sewer, that's not needed. The effluent being dumped into the Susquehanna, that's not needed. The infrastructure in Harrisburg is outdated. There's also it's a norm for infrastructure to be outdated. Like we gotta work with that. But anyways, I'll continue. I'll stay with my notes. I pulled a quote and I said, while the rise in data centers is all but inevitable in some ways, the way it happens is not. Data centers power modern life and can bring both investment and jobs. Clear rules on energy procurement, water use, land siting, community engagement, and cost recovery will determine whether this growth strengthens local communities or local economies and infrastructure, or if it shifts those risks to the residents. So there was a distinction made in this between small scale centers and hyper centers. This would be a hyper center, I believe. Yeah, so I took notes. It outlined 7 ways this growth is reshaping local conditions. It affects all of us. Number 1 was managing soaring energy demands. It says single modern AI data center can use as much power as 100,000 homes, which has been stated. Many of the larger ones now being built are expected to consume up to 20 times that amount. Number 2 was protecting local water supplies. It says mid-sized facilities use up to 300,000 gallons a day. Large facilities use up to 5 million gallons a day, comparable to what a small town uses. And yeah, 2/3 of all centers built or in development since 2022 are located in water-stressed areas. Also good to point that out. Number 3, it says reducing air pollution and climate impacts. Some centers use gas power on site for daily operations. Diesel fuel backup generators, they release fine particulate matter, PM 2.5, and nitrogen oxides, I know it. And that's linked to respiratory disease, heart disease, and asthma, along with other effects. Number 4 is mitigating noise. Rooftop cooling systems and backup generators are noisy, ranging from 85 to 100 decibels, and levels can harm hearing. Competition for land is number 5. Often intersects with agricultural and rural areas. With that, there's a loss of productive farmland, which we gotta think of our farmers too. I will point that out. We're working with the conservation district, like we need to work with our farmers. But yeah, so there's that, and then there's the farmland is already declining due to development pressures, land consolidation, and competition. Number 6 said reducing pressure on marginalized communities. Number 7, balancing economic trade-offs. It says construction generates temporary jobs. they're not permanent, and I'd also like to emphasize, where are they coming from? Are they benefiting the citizens? Yeah, so some opportunities for full-time jobs, but they're limited. This article pointed out that the largest centers employ less than 150 jobs, sometimes as few as 25. Interesting. So, I also pulled a quote, how data centers are governed will determine whether communities benefit from the digital economy or bear the brunt of its risks. And then from another article that I looked at from the environmentalhealthproject.org, the article titled, The Dangers of Data Centers, they emphasized a lot of the same risks, noise and light pollution, long-term impacts of both pollutants include hearing loss, stress, insomnia, and lower quality of life. I think it's interesting that you bring up investing in schools when I went to Susquehanna. I've been here my whole life. That's probably, like, the kids are already stressed out. Like, they are aware of some of the funding things going on. If anything, it's going to increase the stress. So then that money's just going to be soaked up by mental health. Like, we got to think about how that money is going to be allocated. But that's different. I'm sorry, I'm getting off track. But yeah, they also emphasize air pollution, water waste, and costs going up for home energy use, for home energy systems. And then I have some notes of my own knowledge. I'm almost wrapped up, guys. I said we need to consider the entire process of planning, construction, maintenance, etc., and whether or not this benefits the community. There are many trade-offs at stake, and from my own, like I did some digging, and I have been tracking what's happening with data centers and other places. It's really hard to find out who's involved and who's doing what. I did find like some documents on the warehouses, as some brought up, but regarding data centers and permitting for that, like it's very not there. But that's just some observations. And the stakeholders in this whole process are not clear. And the distribution of risk is not clearly delegated. Some concerns on the matter include, for me personally, I've learned a lot about erosion and sedimentation, and the main motive of the conservation district ties into sediments getting into the river in the Susquehanna, which connects to the Chesapeake Bay, and there's an issue with that. And so there's a lot of work being put in to just mitigate erosion. And developing all this is going to put so much dirt into that river, and we are so close. And I'd also like to point out some of the fishermen. Like, this is a great, like, we're known for fishing from, like, people who aren't even around here. I'm mentioning that to me. This could also affect the fishermen. But yeah, so there's also going to be a great loss of pervious surfaces, which means like grass where the water can percolate into the ground. I'd like to emphasize that runoff will be an issue. Like, it's not a question, it will be an issue. And that will just go directly to the and also pulling water from aquifers. There's a lot of feedback loops with that. I've just been starting to learn about wells. I just went to a testing and tested my own well water, and that's beautiful. So yeah, I feel like everyone here, I encourage you to test your well water now, and then if this does happen, track it after. We're almost there, I promise. And I was also looking at the Perry County Tax Parcel Viewer. Under the tab Clean and Green Enrolled, they weren't, which makes sense for a data center, but they will be pulling well water, and there's multiple wells that they'll be pulling from on the property, I believe. There's also like a good bit of forested land on the property, and also looking at the contours, there has to be a waterway on there somewhere, or wetlands. So we also have to think about that, and typically they won't let you build where wetlands are. Yeah, so that's just, it's good to think about the birds, it's good to think about the bugs, the critters, like, we gotta think of them. And yeah, it's insanely close to Susquehanna and Julietta, upstream from Duncan and Marysville and Harrisburg. Harrisburg already has the pollutant issues and the degraded water quality, which is compound. And then I also took note, I went to MRP's website just to, because I'm like, who is this? Like, I don't know who is behind it. It's really hard to find that. And I'm trying to think of people. But some of their industrial tenants include Amazon, Walmart, 3M, Mattel, Kellogg's, Frito-Lay. And from my own digging, they all have some shady business practice history, so not that that would happen with this, but like, let's keep that in mind. But yeah, also I looked at the bedrock geology of the location. It's mudstone and siltstone. And don't quote me on this, but from what I'm learning, those aquifers, the pore spaces are really, really tight. And so that water, once it's gone and you're pulling a lot from it, it takes a while to replenish compared to limestone wells that are drawn for those types of aquifers. So I would like to put that in normal people terms. But yeah, I also looked at the NPDES permit. I believe that was for the warehouse, or maybe it was for the data center. Sorry. But the anticipated domestic wastewater flow would be 30,000 gallons per day discharged to the Susquehanna, which goes to the Chesapeake Bay. And yeah, there is a public water supply, the Suez water, that is about 12 miles downstream. So that could affect public water if there were to be issues. So I just want to share that, and thanks for giving me the time.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Just one last anything you need to add? Carl, anything to add? Sure. At this point, we will adjourn the public meeting for comments and move into the special meeting for the adoption or non-adoption of the ordinance. I saw a lot of people walk in after the start of the meeting. If you have not signed in, I'm not sure where the sign-in sheet is right now. It's back in the back. We could just bring that up front, we put it on the table, the folks can come up here and sign in, if they have not signed in already. Okay, with that, I'm going to open the public meeting for the adoption or non-adoption of the ordinance regarding data centers in Watts Township. Keep in mind, this is a moving target. As we said, it's always open for amendments. We're still looking at all the comments we received. The one thing I do want to address is I received an email from a lady asking if we have to wait 3 years to do any amendments, and we do not. So we can do amendments at any time. We do not have to wait 3 years to do any amendments. So with that, we will once again have a quick public comment on the ordinance. Start on this side this time and go back. Hopefully we got everything in the early session, but just give you one last chance. Moving back this side of the room. Any other additional public comments on the ordinance? Okay, it's across the back. Coming down the front. Dan?
Real briefly, I would just encourage everyone to realize that the supervisors have done a wonderful job strengthening the draft ordinance that existed just months ago. But their work is not done. A lot of us here are supportive of the ordinance going forward, only because you've said you'll strengthen it even more. So let's hold their feet to the fire. Thank you.
Anyone else on the board? Anything on this side? Okay. So, having read the Perry County public comments and review of the ordinance, are there any questions, concerns at this time? Any adjustments, changes? HRG, anything you need to add or change? Lines, okay. because I am the one speaking, I will not make the motion to accept the ordinance. I'm looking for a motion to accept the ordinance or not accept the ordinance as it stands. Motion to adopt. Joe makes the adoption motion. Carl seconds. Any other further discussion or concerns before we take the vote? Having heard none, all in favor by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed by the same? Having heard none, motion carried. We have a lot in front of us. I just want to remind you, we do have a lot in front of us right now. I know, Dan, you're asking for us to start setting dates as early as next week. I don't see that as reasonably possible, but maybe we can start setting dates in August. I don't want to give you folks any false expectations. We have a lot in front of us right now. So, you know, we promise we're going to work on it. We have all your comments. We have all your emails. I know I started my list. I know Joel started his. I've heard some good stuff tonight. Paul has his. HRG's working with us. So please don't expect anything in July. We got a lot in front of us. It's too early to schedule anything in July. So hopefully we can do something in August, depending on what transpires between now and then. But keep in mind, we got a lot of progress right now. So we appreciate all of you. We appreciate everything you've done. And thank you very much for coming out tonight, spending time with us. And we wish you all a very good night and good health. Thank you. Motion to adjourn. Paul makes the motion to adjourn. I second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed by the same. Motion carried.
They were thinking on what